In this video, we demonstrate how to integrate with BladeLogic server automation and extract data for further consumption by other workflows using XSLT and XPath. In addition to this, we also leverage certain activities within Developer Studio, the basic utilities and the basic editor, in order to manipulate our data. As you can see on the infographic, sometimes we have to execute the BLCLI multiple times in order to retrieve configuration data or manipulate objects within BladeLogic. Our main goal here is not to focus on BladeLogic, but to help you understand how you can leverage XSLT and XPath, as well as some of the activities in Developer Studio to create new XML documents that serve as a basis for other workflows. In this case, our data source happens to be BladeLogic. As we have developed already a foundation for integration with BladeLogic getServerList, we copy this existing workflow and paste it into the same folder, adjust the name of that new workflow, as we only have to modify some of the API calls that we have to make and add additional functionality. This workflow requires that we hand over a computer system or a host name. It's a mandatory field. We change the API that needs to be made. We will stay in the namespace server, but at this point we work with the job activity. And the job activity requires an argument list as an input, which is an XML structure that contains time, computer system. Our computer system is being handled by the consumer, and the time will be calculated based on the current time minus 4 hours. In order to do time and date manipulation, we use an activity in the activity palette, the utility, move it over into our workspace. The utility allows us to get the current time of the execution of the workflow, and this format is going to be in epoch. Then we subtract from that particular time 4 hours in the past, as the job activity window is going to be for the last 4 hours. The utility again will help us to do the time calculation. As we open up the utility, we see the options available to manipulate date. And here it's important that we assign this to the proper context item. So our current time will be manipulated, and we subtract 4 hours, and the result will be written in the context item date start. And date start is the argument of our job activity API call. Here we use a basic editor feature to manipulate the time translated from epoch format into the format that BladeLogic understands. You see here the date to string activity within our basic editor. This requires now XML know-how. For those folks who are not so familiar with XSLT or XPath expressions, you can leverage the basic editor to retrieve and manipulate data. So our date start will be translated into more human readable text. And as we need this in the argument list, we move the order of our context item, and now right mouse click, insert the context item date start. Save our workflow and review the extraction of our data. We load the proper XSLT, the proper sample data, add the proper token for the final report. And as you can see, the for loop within our XSLT uses an XPath expression to iterate through all the lines. We added an attribute to our root node called CI that represents the computer system, and then have for each job that was executed against that server an individual child node. Copy and paste this into our example for the output of the workflow. This is good housekeeping so that other folks have it easy to document, read, and learn what we have done. We execute our workflow with a test server that must exist in BladeLogic, of course. And you can see our result for the execution of that API call was successful, and as we have initially copied that workflow, the sample data needs to be overwritten. So the idea is here copy and paste of a good wrapper and then adjust the API calls.